creatures of the night. It's your girl Tati. Let's talk about Dark Side of the Ring, Season 5, Episode 2, Buff and the Bagwells. Now, last week, it wasn't as dark as some people would have, wanted Dark Side of the Ring to be. But this week, it's gotten darker, so we'll see about the rest of the season. Now, we do have Marcus Bagwell, who is talking about his life, talks about his childhood with his family, talks about injuries and him being a wrestler and drug use, and even his days as a male escort and stripper. And this was a really interesting episode here because we do start off with a nice little focus on his family. And I guess the things that he had gone through that shaped him to be where he is today. He did grow up playing football and baseball as a child, and he was the youngest of 3 boys. Now, we did have his dad, Papa Bagwell, doing an interview for the show as well. Now, he was a self-made millionaire. He used to be a drag racer and even own his own lumber business, where Mama Bagwell, obviously Judy Bagwell, you guys know Judy, she was running the business, and she was the head honcho over there. She was literally running things, and a lot of people feared her because of how she ran the business and because of her personality. And what was interesting is that they had a lot of money, obviously, through the business, and the father being a drag racer. And they lived a really wealthy lifestyle. Now, everyone within their community, everyone knew about them. Everyone knew about their reputation. Everyone knew who the Bagwells were. And they kind of lived that luxurious life. Even Marcus had his first car, a Corvette, brand new Corvette, at 15 years old. Now, the father, even though they were spoiled with like luxury things and with money and stuff like that, the father also took things to another level, where he was, when the sons and their friends would come over and they're going out to have fun, he would supply them with cocaine because he'd rather them get the cocaine from him, where he knew that it was, safe, instead of them getting cocaine from some random people and the cocaine being laced with God knows what, and then they probably would end up dying. Whatever the situation was, he felt like it was up to him to provide drugs to the boys. Now, they lived a wealthy lifestyle. However, Judy realized at some point that they were going broke. They were losing money pretty quickly. So she decided to open several loans, trying to replace the money that they had already lost, and thinking that, she had a plan that they'll be able to make back the money that they lost, and then obviously end up paying back those loans. Unfortunately, that was not the case. She lost more and more money, and she told, the family about what was going on. And then at some point, they got pissed broke, and she just could not take it anymore. She decided that she was going to leave the family and take one of the luxury cars that they had and hit the fucking road. Now, Papa Bagwell saw this, and he was like, "You're not going anywhere with that car. You want to leave, you better take your 2 feet and go." Now, she wasn't happy about this, and she still wanted to take the car and leave. Now, he's told her that if you get in that car, before you can even get out of the driveway, I'll shoot one of those tires and you won't be able to go anywhere. Now, all this ruckus is going on between Judy and Papa Bagwell, and then Marcus comes down upset about what's going on. Now, he loves his father, but he loves his mother even more. He came out with a gun, and he threatened his father because his father became physical with Judy. And he told her, let her go. She wants to go, let her go. Don't touch her. I will shoot you. Now, Papa Bagwell is like, okay, you about that life? I'm about that life too. He goes inside. They always kept a gun on top of the refrigerator. He takes that gun, and now it's Marcus and his daddy. They're both holding guns, threatening each other to shoot each other. However, Marcus is the one with the balls big enough to start shooting, and he shoots at his dad several times, a few of them passing his head, and one of them ends up hitting his wrist, like right here in his wrist. So when he shots him right here, a piece of that bone ends up flying right the fuck off. And now he goes to the hospital, where they end up taking a piece of a bone from his hip put that in his wrist, and then they put like some metal rod in his arm, and then he showed his arm on the show, where you can actually see that something is still missing there. Even though they operated and try to make it look as normal as possible, you can still see that something is definitely wrong with that wrist. They weren't talking for 3 months after that, and the father, had the courage to call up Marcus and said, "Look, I was wrong. I understand why you would defend your mom." He obviously wanted a relationship with Marcus again, and he promised him that nothing like that would ever happen again. And then from there, it took a while for them to mend the relationship, but they became besties after that. And I think he learned his lesson. Don't mess with Judy Bagwell. Now, after the family becomes broke, Marcus moves out of his family home and he goes to become a stripper. He also gets married to his wife, Tanya, as well. Now, during his time stripping is where Missy Hyatt ends up discovering him. Now, he told Missy that he didn't want to be a wrestler, that his brother was interested in being a wrestler. And she was like, "Look, I don't know about him, but you could be a wrestler. And that there's a lot of money to be made if you can make it to the big leagues." Now, Marcus ends up thinking about this. During the time he is struggling, obviously financially, being a stripper, and his wife obviously doesn't like her job either. So he decides to go ahead and train as a wrestler, thinking that, hey, he can make it to one of these big promotions and end up making big money. Now, after several months in the Indies, he ends up showing his tapes to Missy. And Missy is impressed, and she's even showing it to WCW executives so that they can possibly sign him. And after about 2 years in the indie scene, he ends up joining WCW. Now, they don't talk about his first few years in WCW. They go straight to talking about him winning the tag titles with Too Cold Scorpio instead. So kind of miss some information. And it's a 2-hour show, you guys, so they're not going to be able to get everything about his life on the show. But sometimes I do wish that the episodes is maybe like 30 minutes longer, so we can get a little more information for those who may not know who these people or topics that they're talking about on the show. But anyway, he wins the tag titles and even won Tag Team of the Year. And he became so popular. He's obviously a very handsome guy. And the ladies are loving him. And unfortunately, he ends up cheating on his wife. He confessed to his wife about what had been happening. And although she loved him, she ends up leaving him. Now, as Marcus become more and more popular, he is focusing on his physique. And he wants to look better. He is in the gym, he's working out. And no matter what he does, those calves of his, which is flabby as hell. So then he decides that he wants to go get implants on his calves, and he actually gets them. He gets the implants, and unfortunately, those implants his body is not responding the way they should with those implants. And matter of fact, he ends up getting an infection. An infection is so bad that he's not even able to walk. Matter of fact, people are carrying him to go use the bathroom, carrying him to the kitchen, carrying him to go to wherever he needs to go because he literally could not walk because the calves were infected. It got to the point where he went to the hospital, and the doctors, they took a look and they did some tests, and they were like, we need to get this out like right now. Now, he obviously loved the way his calves looked with the implants. And he begged the doctor if there was some way they can keep the implants because he loved the way it looked. He just didn't like how they made him feel. There was nothing that they can do. The infection got really bad, and it would have been just maybe hours, if anything, before he could have passed away while that infection was spreading through his body. They end up removing the calves, and they gave him the calves to take home since he wanted to keep them so bad. Now, obviously, he needed some time to heal before he can get back in the ring. And I thought that was really interesting that he would be, going to that length just to have that perfect look. Now, they do move on talking about his time tagging with Scotty Riggs, part of the American Males. And I was not ready to hear that theme song once again in my head. And it's still playing in my head. One of the worst theme songs of all time. Thank you, Jimmy Hart. Now, we do also have Eric Bischoff, who is on this episode. Every time I see Eric, I roll my eyes every single time. He talks about how he paired up Scotty and Marcus together because, they had that look that would appeal to the ladies. They wanted something that was going to appeal to the ladies, and obviously giving us the American males was the best thing that he can do. Now, they do have success as a tag team, but during their run, we have Scott Hall, who approaches Marcus and asks him to be part of the NWO. And you guys know during this time, the NWO is red hot, and there's no way he can say no, but he's partners with Scotty. Now, he goes and tells Scotty about, them offering him a spot in NWO. Scotty understood, and they end up even having an angle on TV where Marcus ends up turning his back on Scotty, ends up attacking him and whatnot. All cute and everything. And now he joins the NWO as Buff Bagwell. And honestly, thought it was a really great fitting for him. Now, you guys remember, even his mom came to WCW, Judy Bagwell. She also had a storyline in WCW. And even Eric Bischoff on the show is talking about, we enjoyed having Judy on the show or whatnot, but it ran a lot longer than it should have. And honestly, I agree. When you bring someone over who's not really a wrestler, it could probably go a little bit longer than it should. Pretty much supposed to get them in and get them out. But they enjoyed her having there, and some fans enjoyed Judy's on-screen persona as well. Now, let's take it back to April 12th, 1998. We have an incident where Marcus gets injured from Rick Steiner. Rick kind of lands on his head, on his neck, and it ends up breaking his neck. He's laid out on the ring, and people are scared, and they think that, he's not going to be okay, and he's not feeling anything. He is actually paralyzed at this moment, couldn't feel anything. They end up taking him to the hospital, and after about 3 hours of running tests, the doctor said, get your ass up. You're not paralyzed. You just have some swelling around your spine. Your neck is broken, but your body's kind of thinking that it's like you're paralyzed, but that's not really the case. You need to just start moving as much as you possibly can. Don't just lay there and stay stiff. Let's get this swelling down. Swelling does get down, and he's able to actually make his first TV appearance after that injury in 3 months, and then he's able to come back to wrestling 10 months later. But you guys know how that goes. Injuries, sometimes this is the gateway to them finding painkillers and obviously not being able to get off those drugs. So you guys know the fate of WCW. They were purchased by WWF for mere pennies, if you ask me. Now, Marcus was one of the first people that they did contact in terms of being signed with the WWF. Now, he was training with Shane Helms, and they got into a little shouting match with each other, and then Shane called him a drug addict. Now, that set everything off for Marcus. Now, Marcus was like, bitch, I know you ain't talking to me. And Shane was like, yes, I am. Now, he threatened him physically, and he actually gave him what he called is the Bagwell slap. So he was the first person to touch anyone in that situation. So we did have Helms, who ends up falling down onto the mat, and he reaches over to where his stuff was at the corner of the ring. He had a water bottle where it was pretty much still just ice. He took that and he hit Marcus in the back of the head with that water bottle. Now, Marcus doesn't tell anybody. He ends up going to the hospital and ends up getting 25 stitches, and then later on having to have a match with Booker T for the WCW championship. Now, that match ends up with ending in no contest or whatever. But shortly after that, Vince and people from WWF was telling Marcus that that was the worst matchup they ever seen, and that the match was so bad. They don't know what to do. They didn't like the match at all. Now, 7 days later, they end up letting him go because they said the match was so bad. Now, what he thinks actually happened, even though he said he's not so clear, is that they think that Shane Helms ran his mouth to Vinnie Mac and them and told them what happened. Obviously, because Marcus was the first one to throw any blows in that situation, he would have definitely gotten fired. And he ended up getting into a major depression because of that, because he knew WCW was gone. Now, the only big promotion around was WWF, and he ended up fumbling the bag, I guess you can say. So he couldn't go anywhere to get as much money to wrestle. So he ended up leaving, went back on drugs, and this time he was wrestling for various promotions for like the next 11 years. Now, he did try several times to be clean, and during one of those times that he was clean, he ended up having withdrawals from not taking drugs. And one of those symptoms that he was facing was having seizures. So while he was driving, he ended up having a seizure and ended up crashing the car. Now, they take him to the hospital, and they tell him that if it wasn't for that plate that was on his neck, that he would have ended up passing away. And the crazy thing is that day that he had that accident, that car accident, was the same day, years before, that he had his neck broken accidentally by Rick Steiner. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see, like literally that moment years before ended up saving his life later on, which is absolutely insane. But he ends up having that injury, and from what he says, he recovered quickly. However, he had a lot of bills to pay for home, had a lot of medical bills, and then an opportunity came, a show from Showtime called Gigolos. They contacted him and they said, hey, we know about your days as a stripper, blah, 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 blah. Can you be a mentor to these guys that's going to be on the show? We'll pay you $25,000 for it. And he's like, all right, sure. I'm coming to be a mentor. I'm just coming to talk. Okay, sure. He gets on to the show, and it didn't take long for him to realize that he ain't no damn mentor. This is just him actually being one of the gigolos on the show too. So, he's getting into these situations where he's, getting into sexual situations with women who are looking for male escorts. And the first time he actually get with a woman on the show, this woman is in bed naked or whatever, and he's all stimulating that he's having sex with her. But the situation is that since his accident, he has not been able to get like an erection. So he was like soft as fuck, so he couldn't do anything. And so they're just pretty much pretending that they're having sex. Now he ends up calling his wife after the scene and telling her what happened. She's boohoo crying, talking about, oh, I didn't know this is what the show was about. I thought you were just going over there to be a mentor. She was not happy about it. He even talked to the executives of the show and told them that, he's having an issue with getting an erection or whatever. And they're like, hey, it's okay. You're not supposed to have sex with the ladies anyway. Whatever. Honestly, I'm going to go back and take a look at this show because it sounds interesting. Now, after this show, whatever, he did get paid for his time on the show, but this time he and his wife has agreed that he can be a male escort for cowboys, for angels. So this is where they have male escorts, post their ads, and then those women will respond to them and they go out on dates or whatever the hell that these ladies are looking for. Now, the very first lady to respond to his ad, she is in love with him, probably already knew who he was in terms of him being a wrestler. And, he's seeing other ladies too, but he is seeing this lady even more. She's paying him for his services and ends up falling in love with her. And he confessed to his wife and said, look, I love you and all, but I'm falling in love with so-and-so, and, I'm leaving. He ends up leaving his wife for this lady. Nothing really comes out of it. They don't get married or anything. Matter of fact, that last wife was probably his third wife, I want to say. So, he's been around the block a few times. Now, he obviously gets back into drugs, and unfortunately, things are just not getting better for him. And he ends up getting into another car crash, where this time he crashed his car into this bus station bathroom. Luckily, no one was in it, so no one got hurt, just pretty much him and his car getting damaged. Now, around the same time, his mom got really sick. She had dementia, and she was in a home for people who had, dementia or Alzheimer's or whatnot. And it got to the point where that she became unresponsive and would not wake up. She was still alive at that point, but just unresponsive. They had the family go over to see if there was anything that they can do to maybe lift her spirits, and maybe that would help wake her up. But unfortunately, she ends up passing away. And that devastated him because he loves his mom, and he ends up getting into drugs. He's homeless. And then from there, his niece reached out to him saying, we know that you're homeless. We know that you're not doing well. You can have a place to stay in my home if you get help. And they end up setting something up with DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, who does the whole, yoga thing. And he also helped rehabilitate a lot of wrestlers and celebrities. So it was really interesting to see how DDP was able to help him. Now, there has been times where he has been arrested in the past year. There's been times where he's been falling back into drugs in the past year. DDP has been documenting these things since he's been working with him. And it's been interesting. Now, Dark Side of the Ring producers, they reached out to him and they reached out to Scotty Riggs about being on this episode. When they told Marcus that Scotty was going to be on the episode, he decided to reach out to Scotty. He called Scotty, and Scotty is moments away from committing suicide. He's living out of his car. He feels like he has no purpose in life. And Marcus stays on the phone with him and convinces him not to take his life. And he also ends up joining DDP as well for rehabilitation. So that's pretty interesting to see how DDP has been contributing to saving lives in the professional wrestling world. Now, this was a really great episode. I did enjoy it. Really nice, well produced. I do enjoy how they put these episodes together. Unfortunately, you feel like sometimes you don't get enough information about these wrestlers. And like I said, it's an hour show with commercials. So probably 45 minutes at best of information that you're getting. If anything, I think they could do with another 30 minutes on the show for people to maybe feel satisfied with getting as much information as they can possibly get regarding a lot of details of their life and, the dark side of things. Really great episode. Marcus right now is looking to find, sobriety and just recover from being an addict. And, it takes one step at a time, one day at a time, when it comes to these types of things. And, I really did find it interesting that his ex-wife, his first wife, was on the show, and she seemed to still be so in love with him. And I was just like, girl, I think he's moved on. I think you should move on too. It was interesting because she did say that when he joined the NWO, she took that as a sign because she wanted to get back with him, and she took that the NWO to stand for now we're over. And I was just like, girl, it stands for New World Order. What the hell are you talking about? I don't know. Really interesting episode. Next week we do have an episode on Terry Gordy. I think it's gonna get a little bit darker from here. I think it was a great episode. So if you guys did not see it, go ahead and check it out. And once again, guys, thanks for watching my review. I'll be back next week with another episode of Dark Side of the Ring, and then you guys can catch me throughout the week with my other reviews with AEW. See you guys then.